Three, two, one.
Good evening, good morning, and good afternoon, coasters. It is us, the Sonic hosts, Malzilla and Radrey, here to bring you another wonderful episode of Sonic Hosts Coast to Coast content. We've had a couple good weeks talking about the Sonic movies. We had an amazing, 3-hour podcast with co-stars Chevelle and Jonathan Dobbs yakking about Sonic 3, but since Sonic 3 is now a thing of the past, we're going back further into the past to talk about Season 2 of SatAM. Isn't that right, Radrey?
Mm-hmm. You're right.
How are you today?
I'm fine. I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to go back to one of my favorite TV shows and, you know,
You ready to
watch the shit out of it. I hope you enjoy me
ready?
watching the shit out of it. So I mean, this is where okay, so full disclosure, going into this podcast, we're entering, get a life territory with this show. But I love the show to death and I've been meaning to do this for years, and this is our moment, to dissect this from what is it? Frame by frame. So if you're a big SatAM fan, or if you're not, but if you like our witty commentary, oh, do we have a treat for you today? Yes, a tweet, because nobody makes those
A
anymore.
tweet?
Tweets. Yes.
We still do. But before we do that, couple of bits of housekeeping. If you like our content, head over to our YouTube page, which is technically Radry's YouTube page. We have over 20 episodes, probably over 24 hours of content of us yakking about Sonic. Imagine that, Radry, listening to us for 24 hours straight talking about Sonic. I would probably jump off a cliff, not gonna lie.
Okay.
That's just a joke on our part. But also, if you like our stuff, watch our videos, join our Discord, follow us on Blue Sky and or the X, Twitter, Elon's cesspool of social media commentary.
4chan
Yes, we are still there.
2.0.
You're not wrong. You're not that far off, really. Um, so there's all that. Couple of things I do want to touch in, some milestones regarding Sonic 3, because it's been a couple of weeks since because we kind of got exhausted after that long episode, and Raji took a not much needed little jaunt out of town, so we haven't talked to you guys in like a week or two. So for those who care about the box office of one Sonic the Hedgehog 3, I have some good news and some bad news. The good news is
You're not gonna
Sonic
say
3
you
has
lied. There is no good news, only bad.
there's good news. And
Okay.
really, the bad news is depends on your perspective of things. Um, Sonic 3 has officially grossed 207, 897. Well, let's put it this way: $207.8 million domestically in the U.S. and Canada. So it has easily blown by the 190.8 that Sonic 2 made in literally 1/3 the time. Sonic 3 has been almost out in for a month now, where it took Sonic 2 about 91 days to get that. So not too shabby. The Keanu Reeves effect is in full effect. That being said, again, we're recording this Friday night, the 17th, or, for Radrey, Saturday, the 18th. Internationally, Sonic's only brought in about 180 million compared to the 214 that Sonic 2 did, but I think the final countries that hadn't gotten the film just got it this weekend, so um, I would imagine they'll probably beat the international within another week or so. Sonic 2's worldwide gross is like 405 million, and right now Sonic 3's at 388. So doing pretty well for itself.
Yeah.
I do have kind of some other stuff to kind of put it in perspective.
What you looking
Had some
for?
nice I had some box office records. Hold on.
Oh, okay. We love them box office
Well,
records.
just kind of, put you in perspective of, where all this stuff is and relates. So, Sonic 3 is currently the seventh highest grossing, and this is worldwide, video game movie. Number six, of course, is Sonic 2 at 405. Uncharted is at 407. Rampage with The Rock is at 428. The Warcraft movie from 2016, which only made like maybe 150 million in the US, but made a buttload in China. That's at 439. Detective Pikachu made 450 million, and of course, the Super Mario Brothers made $1,362,000,000. So, um, odds are, I have a feeling Sonic 3 is probably going to crack the top five. I think it's got a shot at number two, but I think it'll definitely, should beat Rampage and Warcraft. But it's gonna take some time. It's gonna really depend on how long they decide to leave the movie in theaters because little known fact, if you missed it in theaters, it's gonna come out in digital streaming next week. So it basically waited a month before they threw it on the internet. So prepare thyself for a gift fest.
Prepare your eyes and ears.
Which I think there's some debates on whether the movie studios are putting these films out on the internet way too early, as opposed to keeping them in theaters. But
well, it helps avoid
that's a
piracy.
Debate.
But
yeah, and see, that's the flip side is it's piracy. But
I mean,
yeah, we'll see
they
how
always
it
say
does.
piracy is a service problem. So I mean, I don't know. Get that stuff out there so people can see it. Yeah.
Exactly, and like I said, the movie is its daily box office is starting to severely slow down. It only made about 500, almost 600,000 on Thursday, so it's begun to dip under the 1 million mark daily. I think it's only supposed to bring in about maybe 12 million over the 3-day weekend. So,
Right.
well, let's see what happens. Now, the bad news, other than the the money is slowly slowing down, is that Mufasa is only projected to be only about 8 million away from Sonic's domestic. Mufasa's been kind of steadily catching up to Sonic, so it's probably, Sonic's got about another week before Mufasa catches up and surpasses him. So damn you, Disney. Damn you. So, but the fact that Sonic did as well as it did domestically for as long as it did, that's pretty solid in my opinion.
Okay.
And I still think, it can probably crack about 250 domestically, and I think international probably around 230. So, we'll see if we can get to that 500 million, if not 450 million worldwide.
Moments like this make me wish I had a soundboard or I put together a soundboard, but I would have I don't know if you've seen Army of Darkness, right? With
A long time ago.
with Bruce Campbell. There's that one part
Yeah.
where he fires off I forgot, like a catapult, I think it is. I can't remember. But I think it's a catapult. And then he goes, "Hey baby." I just kind of wanted to play that. I guess I could just say it. Maybe it's cooler if I just say it. But yeah.
Hey baby. This is my boomstick.
Well, this is my boomstick. It was the moment in the movie where he's about to fight a war. It's like a very Lord of the Rings kind of scene.
Oh, it's like
fight
the
scene.
Deadites. Yeah, it's
The
all
Deadite army
really...
versus the humans, right? In the castle. Great movie. I did not
Army of Darkness is great.
Yeah, I did not like Ash versus the Evil Dead, but that's besides the point. Anyway, the first season was good, but we're not here for that. We're here for Sonic SatAM.
Well, let's talk. Let's get back into the focus.
Are we ready to transition? We need transition music, like or chat. What kind of transmission music do we need? I don't know. The Batman sounds good, but Batman but Sonic themed. I mean, because we're gonna have a
new Jack Swing.
Maybe. How do you make Batman sound Sonic themed? I could always.
I'm sure there's a way to do that.
Well, yeah, especially nowadays. Let's type it in Google. But
pretty much.
So yeah, without further ado, let's begin our post-mortem. So
Well, before
yes.
we kind of get into the episode by episode, I just want to
Okay.
kind of talk about, kind of some broad strokes that we'll go into more detail episode by episode. But I don't know, just like watching these first three episodes, I can, obviously there's some art changes. Rotor's new design and voice is much left to be desired. Sally's vest, the introduction of Dulcie, but I feel like there's a different energy in
Oh,
these
for
like
sure.
first three episodes
For
than there
sure.
was in like season one. Like
It
I
does
don't want
feel
to
like
say things
it
got
feels like it's under new management, right?
yeah, like I don't want to say it's gone more serious, which it has, but it feels like and maybe it's just the how these episodes are more serialized than episodic, but it's got this. There's a little bit more spunk and kick to it now. I feel like.
Lots of spunk.
Plus, it's
Too
also
much
19.
spunk.
It's also this is also 1994, and Power Rangers had been on television for a year, and the world had gone. It's morphin time and all that fun stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, no, you're definitely right. It definitely has a different feel to it. There's a couple of like changes in the font. There's other changes like when Sonic uses his power ring, he has like this. What do you
There's
call
some
that?
visual
Energy.
effects changes.
Yeah, there's like a lot
Yeah.
of visual effect changes, like just little things like Sally's eyes have pupils now, like black pupils.
It feels like the quality of the animation has gone up a bit too.
Yeah, Antoine's
Um,
better animated despite looking different and Rotor looking different. But yes.
yeah,
I think Bunny still does not have pupils though. So she's
I
like
don't
those
think
like
she
really,
does.
really, really tiny white pupils. But
But if you're following along and you want to have a little fun, uh, take a shot each time we mention Dulcie gets a concussion. You'll have some fun if you're 21 years or older.
yeah, sure. Hopefully you are. Um,
Hopefully.
we're all adults here, right? I hope everybody listening is an adult. If you're not, please let us know. Yes.
Exactly.
So without further ado, our first episode. Now we're reviewing these again through production code.
Hmm.
You may say that this is the wrong order. If it is, hold us out on this because I'm going to tell you, I took some time making these notes this time, and I can't tell you how much Mandela effect I had this time around. Like I wrote
Well,
certain things. Yes.
it's funny because um, I actually watched like with Sonic Season 1, you could probably watch some of those things out of order and it really wouldn't affect. But I actually watched episode 2 Game Guy, which technically aired before episode 1 by a week. But there's one of those, if you watch it, you can kind of pick up on some things that like, wait a minute, they're referencing things that like no one has talked about yet. But then if you go watch, what was episode 2, which technically was episode 1, it fills the blanks. It suddenly makes some of the things that they say in Game Guy make a lot more sense. So yeah, this is one where you really got to watch in order or you're gonna get lost.
Oh yeah, for sure. This one's definitely a bit more serialized than the first season because I think back then with television, nobody had like you couldn't stop television, like you can today. You can just pause it and come back to it whenever you want. So you can watch things in the order that they were made, not the order of when it airs on TV because you just happen to be there, happenstance, because that's just the way things were back then. But
Especially in American animation, it was all very episodic. Now, if you're an anime nut, you'll know that anime has been serialized since like the 70s and the 60s, so that's nothing new over in on the east side of the Pacific. So
yeah, so serialized that like they would make episode like if anybody Dragon Ball Z fans in the chat or here, um, you'll know that they let you know what happened in those serialized episodes because they made, and I didn't even know that they'd made so many other episodes just telling you about what happened in previous episodes. So
last time on Sonic Coast's Coast to Coast.
yeah, so let this be a testament for people who are younger than us, who are still adults, mind you. If you're not an adult, what are you doing? Get out of here. Go to bed. Um, it's probably morning when they're listening to this podcast because you can listen to it anytime you want. But yeah, as a testament for way we consumed media, it does really change the way people view things and how they understand it and how it really changes the content, of the story or just in general of like how media looked like. So you kind of have to have. I mean, I know it's sort of me apologizing for the show, but it is important to sort of understand that from that viewpoint because and if you don't enjoy it, you just don't enjoy it. But that being said, this is how I enjoyed it back then. This is probably why I have these memories. Because again, I want to state I'm not gatekeeping here, but I'm just saying that there's a certain way to enjoy something with through a certain lens or through a certain viewpoint that you may or may not agree with. If you do disagree with us, please let us know. We'd be willing to hear your very educated opinion, and please be educated, please. That's all I can ask for. It's okay to disagree. So, with that being said, that diatribe out of the way. I guess it's not diatribe. Tangent?
It's not a diatribe.
No.
It's a monologue.
My monologue. My fruitful monologue for our lovely
You're
listeners out there.
pontificating.
Yes. The chiming of my martini glass that you hear so often in the show. That probably goes off on deaf ears because nobody can hear it because I don't have one yet. So, without further ado, Sonic Conversion. This episode is directed by Ron Myrick. You'll see now that all of these episodes are mostly directed by Ron Myrick, who is actually a very vocal on the internet. We could probably have him on the show, maybe talk to him, because he's worked with some of the other Sonic SatAM fan groups, particularly Team Season 3 and a few others. I think also SatAM Historian as well. And this episode is also written by Ben Hurst and Pat Ali, the common writing duo for the show. And IMDb gives this a 7.0. Will it deserve a 7.0? Well, let's dive in. So, without further ado, as you can tell, probably we're recording this episode in January, so if my voice sounds a little like sick, it's because it's January. So, deal with it. Putting on my sunglasses like that meme. Anyway, so the episode kicks off in Robotropolis, where Snively tests what I believe is called Shriekbot, a high-speed. I don't know why they call it this. A high-speed jet controlled remotely by Robotnik, because that's cool. However, this time, Snively harbors a secret resentment towards Robotnik while pretending to be loyal. I want to start off first here. What do you think set off this loyal Snively arc?
Well, it's really interesting because, again, this is kind of it feels like this season really would set so much of the groundwork of what we know these SatAM characters to be, even more so than season 1, where like the stuff that they do in this season is basically reverberated through Archie for the next 20 years. So, yeah, like, Snively was a little toady, he was just kind of the scared assistant, but now, he's calling Robotnik useless under his breath. You can tell, he's getting tired of being Robotnik's lackey.
So do you
he's
think
dreaming of power?
Do you think? I mean, probably I'm supposed to understand that this all is a slow burn, an accumulation of like the events of season 1. But I'm also sort of wondering if like this was if there was an off-screen moment that just made him say, I'm tired of this guy. I'm really tired of him beating me up. Like there was just one moment in particular that said, you know what, fuck this guy.
Again, we kind of talked about it and how like from the pilot to season 1, it felt like a time skip. It almost feels like there's a bit of a time skip between season 1 and season 2, like in universe. Like this didn't just pick up after the end of season 1. It's like, and we're going to talk a little bit more of like when some of the other characters they act a little bit more mature in theory.
Okay.
Maybe.
All right.
Looking at you, Antoine. Maybe.
Well, we'll get to that. I know what you're
Oh,
I know what you're
yeah.
talking about now. We'll get to that. This is the third episode we're talking about today. But yeah. So meanwhile, Sonic and Sally sneak into the hangar to investigate the Shriek bot. Sally warns Sonic that it may be faster than him, which really hurts his ego.
And Sonic took that personally.
Oh, he really does. And things escalate when Sonic spots Uncle Chuck near the Shriek bot. First question I want to ask: how does Sally know how fast Sonic is? I mean, or maybe I shouldn't ask that question. I should ask, how does she know?
Rephrase that question.
Yeah, I should rephrase that question. Has it been established that we know that there is something that or tech that Robotnik has that shows he's fast? What's faster than Sonic? Well, I guess we have that Cheetah bot that was from Sonic Racer.
Cheetah bot, and I would say probably again Robotnik, and in his own instruments, and Sally obviously has Nicole. I'm sure they have some kind of like, just because it's also Sonic's ego, he's gonna see, constantly see if he can, see how fast he can. Like, go back to Sonic 1, the movie. Tom's at the little speed trap with the speed gun, and Sonic's zipping by and he's scoping it out, seeing if he can get his best time. So that's something I think would, translate to Sonic across any universe. So
okay,
that's just my thought.
So she's just very used to his speed and just knows what it feels like. Can I say that?
You can say that because I'm going to make a joke about that in episode 3.
Okay, all right, let's continue. So Robotnik notices Sonic, and he uses the Shriek bot to attack and chase him through the city. But then Sonic narrowly escapes with the help of Power Ring, making the Shriek bot to lose control, and and have Robotnik reeling. Back at the base, Robotnik fumes at Snively's failure, because I guess for some reason this is his failure, because he doesn't want to accept his own failures, by showing him his heart. And let me ask you, Malzilla, what color is his heart?
I don't see a heart, sir.
I gotta ask you, this is the most Ren and Stimpy thing in the show that I think
it was
I've
very
seen.
animated. Like when he shows inside his mouth, like that is, it was animation was very Ren and Stimpy-esque. But yeah, this is kind of one of those, they throw a bunch of like iconic little lines like that when I think of SatAM, like the "What color is my heart?" and there's like another one, later on. Maybe it's in the second. Yeah, it's later on this episode where it's like, Robotnik's cutting one-liners left and right. He's and they're usually menacing one-liners too. So it's kind of like he's decided to up his game a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So continuing on, returning to Knothole, Tails tries to see Rotor, but is stopped by Dulcie, our new character.
Yes, Dulcie.
Yeah. First, I'm gonna ask is why is the scene here? Are we supposed to understand that Tails meddles with things and he ruins stuff because he's just too much?
Well,
of a kid?
it's kind of interesting because I think this is the first time we see Tails fly, or like uses Tails as the typical flying rotor that he does. Like, I don't remember him doing that all in season.
We see.
I don't remember it.
Yeah, see, here's the thing: is I see people like this. This show has like such a Mandela effect on some people. I don't know, because it did on me. Like I remember somebody saying, I think I read somewhere that like, well, Sally's never mentioned Sally Acorn in the series. I'm like, what are you talking about? Of course she is. Several times. I can cite it for you. Do you know what I mean?
Not in that context. I didn't quite follow.
Oh no, because somebody was trying to say that she was only named Sally Acorn in some iteration, and not the SatAM show.
Oh no, she was she was always Sally Acorn.
Yeah, so I mean, there's been several times with this show because there's so many inconsistencies with this show that it makes you
The fandom in general, really.
tell me about it. There's so many inconsistencies that it makes you kind of question what it is you saw, and then your brain kind of tells you, no, it looks like this, and it's definitely like this. And then you go back and you're like, no, that didn't happen at all. Like, there's one scene in particular in this episode that called No Brainer, especially where, like, I was reviewing my notes, and I'm like, wait a minute. I don't remember this scene. And I'm like, but I wrote this down. And I'm like, no, that didn't happen at all. Right? But anyway, I'll get to there when I get there.
But yeah, like for me, like this, I can't remember a single time, like, because Tails was so used infrequently that he actually did his little Tails rotor, fly around. I don't remember that all in season 1. If you remember it in season 1, send me a GIF and make sure I'm not crazy, or make sure I'm crazy.
I send you right now, but I'm not going to.
What episode was he flying in then?
It was the first one, Sonic and Tails. That one.
The pilot? There was
I'm
no.
pretty sure.
I don't, because I remember he put him in the backpack and they ran off.
I did put him in the backpack, yes. But anyway, we'll get. I'll send you later after we're done the recording. So also, thoughts on Dulcie? Why is she suddenly here?
Well, like the
have we been retconned? Is this a retcon?
Well, from what I've always heard was that they wanted to add another female character to the cast, which they barely used Bunny in season 1, so I mean I get it. So enter Dulcie, voiced by veteran voice actress Cree Summer, and
she plays what's her name in Rugrats, right?
Oh yeah, she's like, if you've watched any like cartoon in the last, if you grew up in the 90s and early 2000s, you've heard Cree Summer, a bunch.
Yeah, she has a pretty iconic voice, but yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I don't know. My thoughts here on Dulcie was when I watched this, I think it was in 2021 when I rewatched the show again. I'm like, God damn, another comic relief character? Like, what, was Antoine not enough? Like, I don't understand why she's here, why she's needed. It's just like one of these things where it's like they go to the next season, they're like, oh man, remember so and so? Do you know what I mean? And like, no. But the show obviously wants you to like remember who they are, but yet you don't remember who they are. Kind of similar to like,
well, they don't really introduce her well either. They've kind of just applied that she's there, and we're just kind of supposed to roll with it.
Oh yeah, right. I mean, I noticed this is like a thing Sonic does a lot. I mean Sonic the brand, where especially like the beginning of IDW, where it feels like it's a comic that's been going on for a long time, and you're like, wait a minute, this is the first issue. Why are you acting like this is like a review? Like, that kind of stuff drives me crazy. But anyway.
It's in the case of the IDW, they were it was set after Forces, so it's supposed to be like, oh yeah, this is basically the game. This is picking up right after the video game. So. Oh
yeah, sure, but it's sort of like, I mean, I don't think you're even tipped off on that though. Like, it's taking place after Forces. Like, there's no announcement saying play the Forces game before you read this comic or something.
Well, not so much, but they do reference like some of his like previous adventures. So, I mean, they don't spell it out for you, but they kind of heavily imply that if you can put 1 and 1 together, you can figure that out.
Oh, right. I understand they have to do it this way because I don't know what's going on in the kitchen with Sonic, I guess, when they're making it. So, I don't know. I'm just saying, I could have used a better introduction about why they're here or why she was added. I don't really want to go into like production notes and, producer notes and that sort of thing. I mean, to find out why did they just add this dragon character? I'm not saying I don't like the character. I'm just sort of, it's one of these situations where it's like, oh, hi. Who are you? Like, doesn't matter. Like, and they hand wave
also
away.
Kind of random that she's a dragon of all things. Like, a dragon. Well, like, this is not an anthropomorphic character. Well, it is anthropomorphic, but this isn't like just a woodland critter. This is a dragon. This is a mythical creature.
Maybe they wanted a plot device to like jetpack characters from certain areas to another area.
Well,
So
considering how much they use her as a taxi, that makes a lot of sense.
I'm surprised they didn't. I mean, this is a bit of a digression, but I don't know if you
What we
like
do.
yeah. I mean, on Game of Thrones, right? If you remember Littlefinger, I remember I would follow some of these like analysis of the
Uh,
Game of Thrones
the
episodes
the little finger teleporting. He just
where he has a
they don't
jetpack
really.
or something.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like they don't like characters will suddenly like pop up like halfway around the country with no indication of how much time has passed. So yeah, that was an ongoing meme for
Maybe
years
that's
of
why
that
they
show.
created Dulcie because they needed a literal vehicle,
Or
to
to let
transport
Sally play
characters.
Daenerys. She can have her
Well,
own Dracarys moment.
I don't. When did Game of Thrones come out? I don't think that was around when.
Yeah, Game of Thrones came out like the first book came out in like 90. Oh, hold on. It's like 95, 96.
Okay. Uh. Well. So leaving this digression, let's continue.
Yeah, published 96. So this was
96.
Game
Okay.
so SatAM beats Game of Thrones by 2 years.
All right. Okay. All right. So inside, Sally and Rotor test a de-roboticizer on Bunny. To everyone's relief, it works, restoring her fully to her organic self. Bunny is joyful, and she declares that she's back. Meanwhile, at the Lake of Rings, Sonic and Tails retrieve a power ring, but Sally urges Sonic to wait before using the de-roboticizer on Uncle Chuck, fearing that its effects may not last. However, impatient, Sonic sneaks into Robotropolis and restores Chuck's consciousness with a power ring. Chuck is brought to Knothole for de-roboticization, but the machine malfunctions, reverting him to an aggressive robotic state.
They put him in a cage. It's funny.
Yeah, I don't. And then they kind of like do a screen wipe transition. They do a lot of weird transitions in the second season. It's like it makes you think of like early iMovie transitions, but and they're very 90s as well. And like they don't show you how they put him in the cage, but he's in a cage. I wouldn't
You have a metal
cage.
like robot in a wooden vine cage. I feel like he could like rip out of there in like a minute.
Yeah, because he got aggressive. So desperate, Sonic goes to Robotnik's lair or to steal parts from the roboticizer. And the way he does this is by announcing that he gives up out loud, in the middle of Robotropolis. And Robotnik worker bots take him and see him too, and they send him to Robotnik. Now,
here's the funny thing about I love this scene. Because
Okay.
like Sonic's just playing up. It's like I give up. Too much pressure on my little hedgehog heart. And here's the thing: is like Robotnik's not buying it. He's like, okay, you're on putting on an act. He does my favorite line of something rotten is in Topeka. Pause. Wherever that is. So he's referencing Topeka, Kansas. Instead of
why
like
Topeka? Because I looked this
I don't
line
know,
up.
because I guess it's clearly like reference, something is rotten in Denmark, which is, Hamlet.
Okay,
But,
so you found it. Spoken by Marcellus in Act 1, Scene 4.
Yeah, it's one of those classic, Shakespeare lines. But I do wonder though, because this is kind of something a little bit in the Archie played with. One of my favorite things about Archie was that they would make these maps of Mobius, and they would come up with like these random ass zones, like where like Europe and Russia would be like the radiated zone, like the zone of 1,000 lights. It's like I want to go check out what this random shit is over here. But like all of basically what Mobotropolis was is that, and we see it in some of the other books, when the Wolfpack get kind of this backup story arc kind of later on in the series. But like if I recall everything correctly, like Mobotropolis and Robotropolis are like right in the middle on the Mississippi River, like Kansas City, Missouri. They're kind of like in that center of what was the continental United States. So Topeka, Kansas isn't too far away, so maybe that's just something that, if we hold, some SatAM things to Archie, maybe that's why he says to Pika, because that's kind of a nearby.
Hmm. Okay. I don't know. I imagine it's just a throwaway line.
Oh, I'm
But
sure it was, but it's
uh,
kind of funny to think about things.
to divulge a little bit on what you're talking about, yeah, I remember those maps being really cool at the time, like being younger, and then I felt like they had a lot of imagination put into them. So,
Well, it's probably a thing is when it's like, you know, it was the point where like Sega didn't really give a shit. Like this is back when like brand synergy slash, ideas of what they wanted to do with the franchise. Like Sega Japan just wanted to make games. Sega America, like, we want to build lore. And then they kind of got in fights. Mommy and daddy were fighting.
yep. Yep. While mommy and daddy are fighting, let's continue. So using his speed and wit, he escapes with what's needed. He gets the thing. I don't know. Somehow he knows. Oh, let me finish this. So back in Knothole, Chuck's de-robotization is finally successful, and he shares an emotional reunion with Sonic. Now I want to state, in the previous scene, Rotor says that he needs to build the computer back from scratch after it overheats and smokes up. But yet Sonic knows exactly what part to get, despite not asking any questions. I don't know. This scene kind of confused me. I imagine
I
this
wasn't
is
paying.
like exactly. They expect you not to pay attention, but because I mean, clearly, in this show, because it's taught you that Sonic does not care about technology. He just pushes buttons and he just does. He's very impulsive, and he doesn't really care about any of it. But,
Yeah, to quote movie Robotnik, the time of talking is over. The time is now to push buttons.
pretty much. Anyway, so though Chuck can help to reprove the de-roboticizer, Bunny's wait, my notes all screwed up because I don't know. This show screwed up my notes. Hold on. I mean, I could have sworn that there was more to the scene. Let me know, Malzilla, if I'm missing something. I don't know what it is with this show, but like I have to keep going back to it and like rewatching certain parts of it to say, wait, did that actually happen? Or wait, did nothing happen? Or did something happen? I don't know if you're having this problem, but I definitely am having it.
I wasn't. See, I
All
was
right.
actually cracking it. I was laughing because when they de-roboticized Chuck, Bunny makes it like a comic, like a crack of, oh, I should keep it. I should take another look at Uncle Chuck. It's like she's basically, saying, Uncle Chuck's hot. So it's like, you know,
Yeah, I don't know.
Bunny's into silver foxes. So it's kind of. I was laughing because I'm immature like that.
Yeah, because I swear there's another scene here. But anyway, it goes through. My notes say, though Chuck helps improve the de-roboticizer, Bunny's robotic limbs return, crushing hopes that the process is permanent.
Yeah, so I think where you kind of mistaken is because Bunny is walking with Sally at they're kind of happening simultaneously. They're not all together in the one scene. Sally and Bunny were kind of walking around, or maybe they were in Sally's, you know, bedroom. And then when that happens, which is really weird, it's like, oh, my legs and my arm have turned back from flesh to robot parts. It's really weird. Um, so when that happens, they go, "Oh my God, Uncle Chuck," and then they rush back to find that Uncle Chuck has become robot again.
right. I guess I don't know. I didn't write thoroughly that scene here because I was trying to like push through to get these notes done. Maybe that's why. I want to comment that this is a great line delivery by Salary here. Shaori? I can't say her name. I've been in Japan too long. Where she's like, "Oh my God, Uncle Chuck!" Right?
Mhm.
I mean, you really feel this moment. That I like the way like her voice is directed, or I don't know if this is just Kath Susi, but she does a great job, kind of using like emotional inflection in her voice to like kind of build the stakes of this episode. So I just want to make a comment about that. I mean, this is a great cut to commercial moment, because that's what I don't know. I guess, yeah, you still watch shows commercials. Sorry, I'm always thinking like, oh, in the future, right now, no, we don't have this anymore. We don't have that anymore. We don't have this anymore. We
We
still have
still have
commercials though.
advertising.
Yeah. Thank you, YouTube, for your 2 unskippable ads. Thank you very much, Susan. All right, the thing you leave us with. Anyway, can you tell him bitter? All right, Chuck. Chuck, while helping Antoine in Rotor's workshop, I love this scene, by the way. Before he reverts back to a worker bot, what is it? What is it? Antoine's like handed a sandwich, right?
Like he comes in with a sandwich, like he's gonna
That's a
eat
Subway
it.
sandwich, right? And then he gives it to him, and what happens? Like he puts it in his hands, and then they take it out of it, and then he bites his hands, and then all of them laugh at him. Like even Tails laughs at him.
Something like that.
I don't know. I think I got my notes up here or something. But anyway, yeah, I just have that, you know, yeah, he reverts back to a worker bot, and he kidnaps Antoine and Tails, and he destroys the de-roboticizer, and he escapes for the Great Swamp, or just I guess
With
just the swamp. I
well,
don't think it's the
he
Great
brings
Swamp.
yeah, it's the Great Swamp, but he brings Tails and Antoine with them as hostages.
Okay, huh? Because that's where the Great Swamp is where. What was that place? What was it called in the first episode? With the one where they go to that and they see that, Return of the Jedi looking thing. The
Dagobah.
Rancor. Yeah, not Dagobah. The
Well,
Rancor.
it was that prison where they were trying to find Sally's dad.
What was it called again? Ironclad Prison?
Something like
Iron
that.
Wall Prison?
Iron
That was
something.
the Great Swamp, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to be
And like
consistent with the lore of the show, which is like,
well, so like basically if you watch the episodes enough, you'll kind of know that you have Robotropolis, and then you kind of have this Badlands area, and then you kind of have this swamp, and then it kind of goes into the Great Forest. So you got kind of like, layers, zones, if you will.
Okay. All right. Yes. So yeah, we'll just call it for the Great Swamp. We'll just make it these zones. Hopefully we get this in a Sonic game at some point. So Sally and Bunny pursue Chuck, but must turn back to inform Sonic. Chuck uses the swamp's resources to create Mega Muck. Remember this?
It's back.
Back, baby.
It's 1 part petroleum, 1 part water, 1 part silicone.
Yeah, and he sets
Chuck's
a trap. Yeah, he sets a trap for Sonic, who arrives after getting a power ring. Sonic apologizes to Sally for the situation before rushing off. So, Sonic then falls into the Mega Muck, but is rescued by Dulcie, Bunny, and Sally. I think what was it, 2 attempts here? Like Dulcie messes up or something.
She kind of skids, and then she kind of says, "Don't say a word." So this is kind of, and then like right after she kind of bonks her head, so that's her first concussion. So you can take your first shot. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Chuck brings Antoine and Tails to Robotropolis, and then he struggles internally with his worker bot programming. Sonic arrives.
Sonic.
What?
I was gonna say, Sonic kind of shows up and says, "Uncle Chuck, remember who you are."
Oh yeah. Sonic arrives and he pleads with Chuck to resist Robotnik's control. And through sheer willpower, Chuck regains his free will and reconciles with Sonic. He decides to stay with Robotropolis as a secret agent for the Freedom Fighters, using his robotic disguise to gather parts for the de-roboticizer again. And I want to point out the transitions they use here. This is like, I don't know. The only thing that was going through my mind is this is by far the most 90s transition sequence of like the entire show, where like they show these flashing video screens of like, surrounding one of the characters' heads, of like moments that Uncle Chuck remembers. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you had this moment, but you're like, wow, they don't use that anymore.
No, they don't.
So, I don't know if I think they still kind of do this, like the angel devil sort of back and forth. But yeah. So Chuck helps Sonic stage a fake capture when SWAT bots arrive, and by fooling Robotnik, who deploys the Shriek bot again, Chuck helps Tails and Antoine escape while Sonic faces off against the Shriek bot.
I think it's
Son,
actually Shrike.
is this Shrike? Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
because that's hold on.
was this Shrike?
Shrike is a type of bird. I believe it's also like something
Oh, because it
fast.
looks like a bird. Huh. Okay. All right.
Um, it's also a several combat aircrafts are known as the Shrike. So
Huh. Okay. Well, thank you.
it's
Uh.
also a superhero in DC Comics.
Oh. Well,
It's
I
yeah.
stand
So
corrected.
long story short, it's a common science fiction word name.
Okay. Well, thank you for that correction. Yeah. So Sonic outmaneuvers the Shrike bot, causing it to crash into Robotropolis, leaving Robotnik fuming at Snively yet again. Sonic escapes, ready for the next challenge. Back in Knothole, Sally, Bunny, and Dulcie clean up the destruction caused by the de-roboticizer's failure. Sally reassures that everyone that they can repair it, and Bunny expresses her hope of only one day regaining her original body. Nearby, Sonic and Tails sit on a fallen tree, visibly upset. Sally joins them, and Sonic blames himself for the day's failures, lamenting on his impulsiveness. Tails tries to console him by reminding him that Chuck's new role is a spy, but Sonic finds little comfort in the thought of Chuck living in Robotropolis. Sally reassures Sonic that despite the setbacks, they've learned that worker bots can regain free will, and that Chuck is now an ally in their fight. And her words help Sonic feel more optimistic, giving him hope for battles ahead for a serious ending. And yes, that is how they end. They give each other thumbs up and they say the word serious. I'm
Yeah,
not
it's a
making this
very
up.
Looney Tunes like fourth wall break.
Yeah, it's like Adventures of kind of stuff. Like, what the hell? Yeah. Uh, what was I going to say about this scene? I don't know. Malzilla, thoughts while I think about what I was going to say.
About the episode?
Yes, thoughts on the episodes. Letter grade.
I enjoyed it. My letter grade for it was a B.
Okay, wow.
Obviously,
Okay.
it's kind of again, obviously they kind of throw Dulcie in there, but they also kind of get the ball rolling in a bunch of different ways where it's like, okay, now we can kind of see where things are going. And again, till proven otherwise, until I see a clip from season one, this is Tails feels like he's more than just the kid that he was in season one. Now it feels like he's kind of like the junior member, so they're having him do junior member things instead of just getting tucked in and getting the funny kiss.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And no, I remembered what I was gonna say. So, do you know who does Uncle Chuck's voice?
I don't.
It's by an actor named William Wyndham.
Mm.
He was the prosecution in To Kill a Mockingbird. So, uh, and he's also in a very famous TV show you may have heard of called Murder She Wrote,
Mm-hmm.
and a few others, and like bit parts in other famous movies. So yeah, this guy's got some credentials. The guy who they got voice in Chuck, but yeah, I guess this kind of sets up how Chuck is a spy for them. I thought this was really cool. I mean, this is a really cool setup for the show. My letter grade A minus. I actually quite enjoyed this
Oh,
one.
okay.
It
Oh,
gets
you
it
really
gets
did enjoy it.
it gets the ball rolling. It sets up the episode well. I mean, you could probably argue. I mean, the reason why I get it an A minus is because you could argue that the pacing is a little weird. That they just kind of introduced the de-roboticizer suddenly. You don't really know what this is, and I guess probably for new viewers, probably tuning in, they're like, What's going on? How did they get this? When they got this? You know, that sort of thing. And yeah, again, like what you were saying about Dulcie and everything. Why is she here? That sort of thing. But yeah, overall, I enjoyed it. It's a good, strong opener. So
All
that being
right.
said, can I move on to Game Guy?
Game guy as opposed to game gear.
Yeah, well. it's not really game geared. But this one is also directed
But
by.
it is based on a Sonic game.
I'm kind of
For
curious
this
if it is or
is
isn't, but yes.
it's the Sonic Spinball episode.
Yeah, I mean, you could say that, but is it actually based on that?
Well, he puts them in a pinball machine. And again, this is what Sonic Spinball came out in 93.
Yeah, I mean, the timing does work, so obviously, I guess, yeah, that's.
And the fact that, you had the Freedom Fighters you know, in Sonic Spinball, except for Antoine, Bunny, Rotor, and Sally and Mutsky. So I'm going to say, yeah, it kind of was.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Yeah, so this one is also directed by Ron Myrick, written by Ben Hurst and Pat Ali. Again, IMDb gives this one a 7.1. I don't know why. I don't think it deserves it, but let's go in. The episode opens with SWAT bots chasing a hover unit, which crashes into a river, revealing a very, what I'm going to describe as a very masculine-looking anthropomorphic ram named Ari, who flees into the forest. I mean, it starts off kind of in like a real desert kind of area, like a very like Sandopolis kind of looking zone from Sonic
It's that
3.
Badlands area.
Yeah, that we return to later, I think, in the season. So nearby, what I think is a great swamp, Sonic and Sally salvage parts from a wrecked hover unit for the de-roboticizer, discovering a very powerful magnet. Meanwhile, Tails, Dulcie, and Antoine keep watch with, like, on a big watchtower, like a wooden watchtower, with Antoine humorously attempting to recite his poem, or poem, however he says it, for Sally. One thing I want to point out, is it just me, or is Antoine so far this episode, and like this season, like way more bumbling and buffoonish in this season now?
Yeah, that here's one thing where you could definitely say that his character, I mean, not that there was much to go from, and like, it's interesting because, like, if you think about it, Antoine got like 2 or 3 episodes in season 1 where, he's trying to like out Sonic and be the hero and win Sally over.
Yeah.
And again, they kind of cut one of those and gave Bunny an episode. I've kind of decided I'm definitely gonna be a Bunny robot defender for this. That she was definitely underused. But now into season 2, they really just kind of turned him into a. He's definitely a lot more slapsticky, for better or for worse. Up to you.
Truth. So, after some fumbling with the newly discovered magnet, and with Antoine's clumsiness, I mean, yeah, after this, there's like a whole little sequence of this. I'm not going to go into it. Tails spots the SWAT bots pursuing Ari and alerts Sonic. Sally then has the idea for Sonic to lure the SWAT bots to Sally to use their magnet to deactivate these very Star Wars-y bots as salvage for her de-roboticizer.
Yeah, it's so funny because, like, when I watched this episode before, the first episode. So when they're like, when they're like salvaging the parts for like the de-roboticizer there, I'm like, oh, that's right. That's I'm like, I feel like they should have announced that they were doing that. This seems kind of random. Then I realized, oh wait, this is like episode 2, because they introduced the de-roboticizer in episode 1. So
yeah, hence serialization. Well, I mean, you could have it either way. You could say they were
yeah,
up to building the de-roboticizer. That's when they got the magnet. So I guess you could kind of say you could watch these in any order, I think. But I guess also too, they did set up the Uncle Chuck thing in Sonic Conversion. So I guess when we go to the 3rd episode here, like, why is Uncle Chuck friends with them, and why is he a spy? So
no.
yeah, I guess in terms of that, yeah, that one's definitely serialized. And this episode too hints that something is set up in this episode that returns later, but not in our podcast today. They'll come back much later. So that evening, Ari reveals that he was part of another freedom fighter group destroyed by Robotnik. Sally doubts his story, but Sonic believes him, sparking an argument between them. Unbeknownst to them, Robotnik and Snively are monitoring their conversation, and Ari, feeling responsible for the trouble, tries to leave, but Sonic decides to help him, leaving Sally and the others to deliver the salvage parts to Knothole. I want to ask, is Ari the reverse Griff here? It's like Sonic.
Yeah,
Like,
I was gonna make a joke at the end of the episode, but this is kind of like this was my Mandela effect 'cause we talked about it when we talked about the Griff episode.
Yeah,
where
I can see
thought,
that.
you know,
Yeah.
where I thought like Griff was like, because Robotnik's not even in the Griff episode. Like
Yeah.
I always kind of thought, because obviously Griff was trying to pull a fast one to power their city of 30 people. But yeah,
Yes.
this is one of those things where this is like the absolute inverse, where like Sally was so trusting of Griff, though it's pretty obviously Griff wanted something in particular. Where this time it's Sonic trusting Ari just right off the bat, not knowing, and the audience not really knowing till later that this is he's unfortunately on the other side.
Yeah. Yeah, because I kind of feel like, what is it? I know this is not what they're trying to say, but it's like I could view it this way. But is Sonic turned on by Ari's masculinity? Is that what he's into? Is that why he likes this guy? I mean, like, I don't understand why he likes this guy.
Maybe Sonic wants a new friend because like it was really funny
Okay,
because like
that's
when
what
they
it is.
find
He
it,
has a new friend. It's nothing.
he wants
gay.
a new friend
Okay.
because it's
All right.
like no homo, but
Yes, homo. No.
all
Continue.
the homo.
Yeah.
So like when Sonic goes and saves him, like he comments that like because Ari's dodging him, he's like he's like, hey, nice move. It's kind of like respect, and then he's like hey, I'll cover you, and then Ari's like, how are you gonna cover? Now obviously Ari knows who he is, as we find out, but like you kind of say like, okay, dude, what are you even talking about? And then Sonic just kind of stands there like, just watch. And as soon as the SWAT bots, even though, again, this is all planned out by Robotnik, if it hadn't been, they automatically go priority 1 hedgehog altering parameters. But, Sonic kind of gives them the look. It's like, yeah, I'm the number 1 threat. I'm priority 1. They're going to follow me now. And then they obviously go off to the magnet. So...
Right. What do you think tipped Sally off about Ari? Was it her bad experience with Griff? It must
maybe
be.
Must be the fact that well, like
I shouldn't have let that
I
man
forget
make
it.
out with me, or if they made out. I can't remember if they did.
I
or
don't
not.
think they did.
Okay.
They didn't. But I'm just trying to remember if like Griff, if he had told them that like they said they were part of like the Mobius Underground, and obviously they're underground, all that fun stuff. But like at the same time, when they're at the theater, it's like yeah, I was trying to find my regroup with my freedom fighters. And it's like, freedom fighters? We're freedom fighters. We've never heard of you. It's like, funny, I've never heard of you too, which is kind of weird because it's Princess Sally. Like everyone would know her. So
Yeah,
I can kind of see
yeah.
where
What
she'd
happened
be a
to
little
Griff? They all die or something? They're all gone.
Maybe. But
yeah. There's no other freedom fighters but them.
But this is a plot that actually persists through the season. So that's
yes,
kind of
yes.
We'll get to it a little bit more.
Yeah, later. Yes. So, later, Sally, Antoine, and Tails ride on Dulcie as she flies over the Great Forest, but Dulcie dozes off mid-flight, and Sally wakes her up just in time to avoid knocking herself into a tree, but also falling into Rotor's workshop. There, Bunny tends to Dulcie, while
That's
Rotor...
another concussion.
Yes.
Take a shot.
Yes. Paying attention? All right. While Rotor connects a SWAT bot head to his device, the head reveals Robotnik's plan that the SWAT bots were ordered to chase Ari and to lure Sonic into a trap. Sally determines that they must warn Sonic. Because I didn't mention that. Sonic and Ari they go somewhere else. Where did they go? Like what made them want to go somewhere? See, this is where my notes are screwed up again.
So they're going off to the fortress because that's where Robotnik was like holding his, Ari's homies.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna get into this. So meanwhile, Sonic carries Ari toward a pyramid-like, I'm gonna call the Sandopolis zone structure. Anybody who's played the games. Ari then gives Sonic
I will
goggles.
say it looks more like SA1 Mayan
Ruins.
pyramid
All right,
than
fair enough.
Egyptian, but that's just me, and I'm gonna be, arguing semantics.
All right. Sandopolis sounds cooler. I don't know. What's that zone called? The Mayan zone. I don't know.
What,
Help me out.
and Sonic Adventure?
Yes.
Lost World.
All right. Lost World, and there's a whole game called Lost World. That's just confusing. I'm gonna say Sandopolis for simplicity. Yeah. So Ari,
Do what you will.
Yeah, Ari gives Sonic goggles to detect hidden sand whirlpools triggered by vibrations, allowing Sonic to navigate safely. As they reach the pyramid, Ari secretly triggers a flying mechanical head with sharp teeth to attack Sonic. Sonic evades his attacks and tricks it into a whirlpool using his super spin, burying it in the sand. Ari rejoins Sonic, who is nursing a bite from the robot. Overhead, Sally urges an exhausted Dulcie to fly faster, but later at the pyramid, or Sandopolis zone, Ari warns Sonic of danger, demonstrating by throwing a rock that disintegrates on the contact of the door. Unseen by Sonic, Ari secretly uses the remote to deactivate the door's defenses. When questioned, Ari claims its intelligence network provided reliable information, and then Sonic praises their potential as a team. I gotta say, it's funny watching this in 2025. Sonic really just trusts any tech he sees. It's sort of like, today, like, you don't trust any tech you just see, We've all been conditioned to, avoid scams and everything, But very much a product of the 90s or early 2000s, you could say. So as they enter, Sally arrives on Dulcie and calls out for Sonic, but Ari quickly shuts the door with his remote. Outside, Dulcie crash lands into a stone pillar, dazed, and Sally
Concussion
watches...
number 2.
Yes. No, are we into number 2? I thought it's number 3. Is it 2?
That's 2 for this episode.
Oh,
3
yes.
overall.
3 total, yes. Sally watches in shock as the pyramid transforms into a Robotnik fortress. A very circus-looking thing. With Robotnik's mouth as the entrance. Before her eyes. Inside the fortress, Sonic and Ari navigate the corridors and encounter a static-filled television. Ari explains that it must be unscrambled to open the door ahead. After pressing the correct sequence on the nearby panel, Ari opens the door, revealing the room with holographic projections of his freedom fighters bound in energy shackles. Sonic rushes to help, but realizes the projections are fake. Apologizing, Ari locks Sonic in the room using his remote control. Sonic turns to see a giant pinball table and Dr. Robotnik on a monitor. Robotnik gleefully explains the rules of his twisted game. Hello, Spinball. Yes. So meanwhile, Sally and Dulcie struggle to breach the fortress. Dulcie now attached in front and is attached now with the giant magnet from earlier in the episode, and impulsively turns it on, despite Sally's demands not to. The idea backfires, leaving Sally dazed, which prompts Sally to, retort to using the coal for assistance. Before they can make progress, the fortress door opens, and they witness Ari leaving in a hover unit. They follow him, and not Sonic for some reason, with Dulcie using her tail whip to boost their speed, allowing them to latch onto the hover unit as it heads to Robotropolis. Then, back in Sandopolis, Robotnik unveils the Void. This is the first time we see this. A interdimensional trap.
Otherwise known as the Zone of Silence for our Archie fam. So this is one of those things that would its first debut, but we'd be seeing a lot of it throughout the years.
Yes. He explains that Sonic can close the Void by hitting his own bumpers, because he's like in a pinball machine. but hitting Robotnik's bumpers will widen it. Oh, sorry. When I say his bumpers, there's bumpers with his face on it, and then there's bumpers with Robotnik's face on it. Every time he hits the Sonic bumpers, it closes. Every time he hits Robotnik bumpers, it opens. So, but again, this is also something that later changed. He says that he created it. Robotnik, that is. I don't think he created it. It was like something made by Nagus or something, or I don't know.
It depends on the continuity. Like in Archie, it was something that Nagus had discovered, but had always kind of like been there. Like eventually, it would become the special zone when Ian got a hold of it. Like there's a lot of Archie stuff you could go on, but yeah, either Robotnik takes credit for a lot of things, but yeah, this is basically, even when eventually we get to Nagus, this is basically something discovered by Nagus.
Right. Well, we also even said in like the previous season that all of Robotnik's tech is stolen from Chuck, so I guess it only makes sense him claiming that something is his own, So I guess I'll apologize. I'll let this one fly. The show, show 1, Radley 0. So, anyway, so Snively suggests that destroying Sonic outright. Excuse me. Snively then suggests destroying Sonic outright, but then Robotnik dismisses the idea, preferring to savor the game. This is a total Dr. Evil moment. He just wants to fuck around with Sonic or savor the moment. Opposed to just like, man, just kill him when he's on the toilet, man. You don't need to like do all this elaborate like death scenes or have a whole plot, But I don't know. To me, this is funny. So as Robotnik escalates the game, releasing a flipper that bounces Sonic into Robotnik's bumpers, it reopens the void. Sonic is eventually frozen by cold air from a mouth-shaped recess that's in the pinball machine board, because Sonic's in the ball. And a holographic Robotnik hits this frozen ball with a hockey stick. Sonic thaws out, and then Robotnik deploys SWAT bots on hovercrafts. Because this game isn't hard enough. He just has to make it harder. Furious, Robotnik is interrupted by Ari, who demands the release of his freedom fighters, as per their agreement. And Sally and Dulcie, meanwhile, are eavesdropping from a ventilation shaft. Robotnik summons Ari's group, now transformed into worker bots, betraying, Ari and the Robotnik deal. As Ari protests, Robotnik orders his capture for roboticization. In the ventilation shaft, Dulcie then inhales, deeply puffing up her chest until the grill in the ventilation shaft collapses. Landing before Robotnik, Dulcie freezes him and Snively with their ice breath. Lots of plot devices this episode. Freezing
Absolutely.
stuff. To stall out time. I don't think this freezing stuff ever comes back. It's only this episode, right?
I think we get more in the Dulcie episode, so I won't jump on that one. I think it does come back.
All right, fair. I guess we'll see that when we see it. SWAT bots converge on Dulcie and Sally, but RC destroys them with a powerful charge using his horns. Grateful, Ari thanks Sally for her help. Back at the pinball table, Ari, Dulcie, and Sally, they use Shrikebot? I think it's Shrikebot. I don't know how.
Yeah, I think that is the Shrike. They must reused assets.
Cause how is he that asleep at the wheel? Robotnik, that is. Whatever. See, because he's that into this game. I don't know. He's I guess he's totally he's on full Elon Musk mode. Playing video games because he's got a boost. Hey. To intervene in Robotnik's pinball game. That is Ari, Sally, and Dulcie. Pulling Sonic back with the what I'm gonna call the payoff magnet, the big magnet from before that he stole from Sally, to ruin his game.
Deus Ex magnet.
Yes, the Deus Ex magnet. And then Ari apologizes and Sonic forgives him, but then Sonic next retrieves a power ring that's on the floor. You know,
No, okay, so this is where so like he tried to use the power ring earlier, but got knocked out of his hand, and then like Robotnik tries to grab it, but then Sonic basically uses the Force to grab it. It's like Sonic is a Jedi, like his father before, like his
Okay,
Uncle
because
Chuck
I
before.
rewound this footage so many times. Like, when did he lose the power ring? Whatever. I'm not sure. Like, I guess I wasn't looking closely enough because I was trying to finish up these notes. But, like, when did this happen? When did he get that? I don't know. I gotta, like, fully focus on these episodes. Like, make sure they get everything right. Because, like, there's so many, like, as I've said prior, there's so many inconsistencies. And, like, you start questioning yourself, like, what it is you saw in the show. Yeah, so he destroys most of the pinball table. This part is something I don't get. I mean, well, I guess he didn't have. I guess all he needed was a power ring to destroy the entire pinball table, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, so he does that, and then because of this, Robotnik activates the portal self-destruction countdown as the void begins to pull everything in. Sonic saves Ari from being sucked in, but Ari, apologizing, mentions that Sally's father's list before the debris knocks him into the portal. Sonic escapes to the fortress, reuniting with Sally and Dulcie as Robotnik's base is consumed by the portal and then vanishes. Consoling Sonic, Sally reassures him that they may one day free Ari. I remember watching this thinking, wait a minute, Ari's dead. You know, he got sucked into a black hole. Like, how would you free him? Right? I mean, I was surprised when I saw this in the show. You know, I mean, obviously, of course, it's a kid's show. They have to like bring him back, but the way it's set up doesn't tell me he's coming back. But whatever. Also, I might note that fans may know this episode is also featured in the Michael Tiedemann Sonic book, Sonic Friend or Foe, but it's repurposed in some ways. So this story was also like a lot of SatAM episodes, they're repurposed into other pieces of Sonic media. Like, you'll note that some of the Archie stories, they use some of the old SatAM stories for content, which is kind of hilarious if you think about it. I mean, I don't think you could get away with this today, but back then, you know, not many people saw all the stuff that you produced. So, back in Knothole, Sonic shares Ari's final words with Sally while sitting at Rotor's computer work desk, mentioning her father's list.
This would become a very reoccurring plot point.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, the list. I mean, this is a big thing.
Huh.
Like,
I don't even remember this. Huh.
Well, obviously, I think I remember it much. I mean, yeah, we will see the list definitely. We'll definitely get into the list and her dad, and again, all these freedom fighter groups. So yeah, this is definitely something we'll touch in
right.
later on.
All right.
It's really funny because they have this great banter, and they talk about trusting and not trusting Ari, and Sally says something along the lines of Sally can learn from things, Sonic not so much. And I said, well, no, Sally, that is a half true. Sonic lives and he learns. Da-da.
I didn't even catch that. But okay.
I catch things you don't, man. So it's kind of, it's interesting when I take my notes because, I only watch these episodes once, and I kind of like if I see, I kind of put like the key points. But then again, I have these weird like. I almost wonder if I had like if this photographic memory I have for Sonic the Hedgehog was applied to other things in my life, I'd probably be much more successful in life.
Totally fair.
Totally fair. But the episode ends with Sonic zapping himself on one of Rotor's doodads, and Sally just laughing and says, "Rest my case." Well, Sonic busts out his mirror and his comb, trying to get his quills back in in order.
Yeah, that was the last of my notes. Yeah. Um, yeah, she kind of pokes fun at him. I mean, they do this a lot. Uh, they would
Their
show
love
they
language.
show some device, and then he says, "What's this?" And then he touches it, and then he gets like crazy quills.
Zapped.
Right? They like doing this for some reason on this show. I guess it's like to end it with a denouement. I mean, they did the denouement, and then they're like, well, let's end on a high note. And then they always introduce this device, and it zaps Sonic, because I guess it's cute or funny. I don't know. How am I supposed to react to this? I don't know. Anyway, Malzilla, letter grade.
Actually really like this one. I gave it a B plus. Like,
Okay.
it's funny, it's kind of the inverse of the Griff episode, but again, it's fun,
The
I've
Griff
talked about this
episode you
bunch.
should watch. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Again, a lot of people have criticized SatAM for not incorporating, a lot of the game elements, and I think as season 2 progresses, they are started incorporating more. I mean, obviously, doing a Sonic Spinball homage makes the most sense because, again, that was made by Spinball was made by the American team, so naturally, Sega of America would have the details to get to, Deke to, make this episode. But yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. Ari was fun, introduced some fun little plot points. Again, about the list, the zone of silence, or the void, as it's known in this iteration. So again, you got some fun stuff. Like Dulcie crashes like 4 times. I was making the joke. I'm like, man, if you literally did a shot like every time, you'd be 4 under. Like, in this episode alone, it's like she crashes into everything. And yeah, they kind of say, oh, she's supposed to be clumsy, but this is kind of I think they do a little over to it. Robotnik does have a great line when you get that classic, we had a deal. Well, I'm altering the deal. Pray, I don't alter it any further. But he has the line that says deals only exist to be broken. I'm like, okay, that's a good villain line. That's a good villain line.
Okay.
But yeah, I enjoyed it a lot.
Huh. All right. Yeah, well, I give this episode a B. Not a B plus. It was okay. I guess it, progresses the story. It's fun. It's serviceable. You can watch it. Will I go out of my way to watch it again? Probably not. I'd probably watch
Oh, you will.
Well, I will, but I would probably rather watch Sonic Conversion over this one.
I like this one much better than Sonic Conversion.
Okay. That's fair.
No,
So going into an episode,
insane.
the episode I thought was kind of the not the best episode this
Yeah,
episode,
this
this
is
season.
this is definitely one of the weaker ones.
Yeah,
Brainer.
no brainer. I'm gonna recall this one
Get brain.
even before going on my get brain right. Even going into like my analysis of again, Brains, right? What is up with this show and Brains and Shakespeare and everything? Are like the writers all Shakespeare fans or something? Anyway, what was I gonna say? Oh, this one kind of feels like the reverse Sonic and Sally episode, where it's like
It kind of is. It's similar. Like it's almost like the remix.
yes,
Because it's not quite because there's no robotic duplicates,
yes,
but there is some brainwash. Though no, I take it back. It was Supersonic with Lazar that Sally and Bunny got brainwashed, if momentarily.
yeah. Well, that's through magic and not through technology, but we'll get into that in a minute.
I mean,
Not
one would say magic is just technology that's not explained.
perfectly fair. So this episode's written by Pat Ali. I normally say the director first. Yeah, the director is Ron Myrick again. And then IMDb gives this episode a 7.0. Obviously, the people on IMDb, they like the second season a lot better than the first one, because the first one was mostly like 6s. These are mostly all 7s so far. So let's dive in. The episode begins in Robotropolis, where Uncle Chuck discreetly hides a letter for the Knothole Freedom Fighters. in a sculpture, like a very gargoyle-looking sculpture, near an abandoned building. Meanwhile, Sally observes Sonic through binoculars, growing increasingly frustrated as Sonic evades SWAT bot patrols while recklessly eating a chili dog. I want to throw in there, Sally looks great when she's mad. Sally scolds him for jeopardizing their mission, but Sonic engages to escape the pursuit and rejoins Sally, Bunny, and Dulcie. This is almost kind of like like I said earlier, I do enjoy when she's angry, but this is almost borderline Pink Sally again for me. It's pretty close. It's pretty close. So, as I said prior, I wasn't a big fan of the Pink Sally, but I liked it. Don't get me wrong. It's sort of like, I don't know, what's the best way I can describe it? It's sort of like, let's say you really like vanilla ice cream, but somebody added, I don't know, some topping to it you really don't like. And that's what Pink Sally is for me. So, anyway, moving on, Sally reminds Sonic of his responsibility to retrieve Chuck's message, which he admits he forgot. Brushing off her reprimand, Sonic confidently races off to collect the message. He returns a moment later, handing the letter to Sally. The letter itself informs them that their current mission must be canceled, as Robotnik is relocating the roboticizer. Chuck promises to inform them that when he discovers its new location, and then with their mission. So, excuse me, I read that weird. Chuck promises to inform them when he discovers its new location. With their mission scrapped, Sally orders the group to return to Naho Village, but Sonic decides to detour for another chili dog. Despite Sally's protests, Sonic speeds off. I mean, you gotta love how Robotropolis it's wrecked. It's so wrecked, but it still has chili dogs everywhere. You know, these
got
vending
a chili dog
machines.
vending machines in the sewer, and dear God, Sonic, why are you getting a chili dog from? Like, and that machine looks old. Like, how old is that chili dog? Like, it's probably like 10 years old. And the sewer. I mean, dear God, Sonic.
In the show's defense, Sonic does need to lay off his own cooking, you know, because it's giving him nightmares. So,
I mean, I don't know how, sewer vending machine, it's like you don't get like vending, like gas station sushi or
that
whatever.
Is true. That's never good. Never good.
Yeah, this is sewer vending machine chili dogs. I mean, this has got to be like, in that same vein.
Oh, for sure. Yes. So, meanwhile, Robotnik's headquarters, Snively he doesn't reveal. He revels in temporary authority, lounging in Robotnik's chair and making decisions.
Because, I guess I'm getting a little ahead of ourselves, but, again, playing into these other freedom fighters, Robotnik comes in after chastising Snively for sitting in his chair, saying he's off to deal with the northern frontier freedom fighters resistance. So it's like there are others.
Yes. So yeah. Oh yeah. I was gonna mention that. Yeah, and he's making decisions in his absence. This moment is kind of interrupted by Robotnik's return. Robotnik grabs Snively by the collar, informing him that he is leaving to deal with a small group of freedom fighters, as you said. And there's like an uprising in the northern frontier. He warns Snively to manage Robotropolis carefully or risk becoming a paperweight. Robotnik leaves with Snively muttering insults at him again, calling him a toad. Is this supposed to be the Wolf Pack with Lupe that we get later in the season?
It may be, but I haven't gotten that episode. I don't know if they're... if it is, then that's really clever. But yeah, we'll find out.
Okay. Elsewhere, Sonic discovers a chili dog, the chili dog vending machine I mentioned earlier, in the sewers. While enjoying his chili dog vending machine, I have yet somebody to tell me they've enjoyed something from a vending machine that's not a soda or a drink. Anyway. So he overhears SWAT bots escorting captured freedom fighters towards a roboticizer facility. And Sonic listens as the SWAT bots utter the password to open the facility doors. Determined to help, Sonic quickly eats this chili dog, or vending machine chili dog, I should state, and attempts to leave the sewer. So, I love this code. Breaker Echo Red 009er. What is this? Ben Burzner. Maybe I'm not supposed to read into this. And maybe they just wrote this like, I don't know, what's the code? I don't know. Breaker Echo Red 009er.
They probably just mishmashed a bunch of different like radio codes.
Probably. They didn't put any thought into this, probably. Or maybe they did. This is a question you would ask Pat Alley or somebody. I mean, we can't ask Ben Hurst, may he rest in peace, but like,
we can this? Let's get a Ouija board. We can like call upon the spirit of Ben Hurst and ask him. We can get a seance going on.
Yeah, probably this code that he has probably no memory of writing, if he does at all. At the entrance, Sonic recalls the password and uses it to open the doors. Inside, he observes the freedom fighters lined up for robotization. As the first prisoner is placed into the roboticizer by a tech bot, Sonic springs into action, distracting the SWAT bots, and he dismantles them with ease and buys time for the prisoners to escape. Sonic then taunts the tech bot by dancing on its keyboard, shutting the roboticizer down in the process. Watching the commotion from Robotnik's monitors, Snively angrily slams his fist on the Robotnik's chair, injuring his hand in the process. Sonic frees the last captive freedom fighter, but before he can escape, the tech bot shoots him in the back with a memory scrambler. So, dazed and confused, Sonic stumbles out of the facility, and Snively flies through the city in Robotnik's hovercraft, and he learns from the tech bot that Sonic has been hit by the memory scrambler, and soon after, Snively spots Sonic wandering the streets and approaches him, pretending to be his ally with a sinister snicker. The next day, in Knothole, Sally grows increasingly anxious over Sonic's absence, and Bunny tries to reassure her. This seems familiar, doesn't it? Insisting that Sonic can take care of himself. The conversation is interrupted by Dulcie crashing into Sally's hut. I'm thinking this right now. You remember the first episode with Pink Sally, right? They had the same conversation where Sally's like, oh, where is he? Like, why is he doing this? Like, and she's really whiny, right? And then there's some big loud.
She's not that about like she worries about Sonic a lot, and it's just the plight of loving a hero is
Oh, yeah. No, I'm just saying. And then there's like a big crash. But this time it's not Sonic's crash. It's Sally. Oh, not Sally, excuse me. Dulcie.
Take a shot.
Yeah, take a shot. After recovering, Dulcie reports that she couldn't find Sonic anywhere. Deeply worried, Sally decides to send a message to Uncle Chuck. Then she writes a letter, attaches it to a dove or a
it's like a dragonfly, but she does this little whisper of she just kind of like, it was something that they had, Ian had brought in, like, in the Genesis, like, mini arc.
Did between he really?
This, like,
okay.
Like, he had this weird thing where, like, so, again, if people aren't catching on, so, if people recall, like, this is, like, right before Mecha Sally, like, literally issues, like, before Sally sacrifices herself. So, this is actually right after she got gunned down by the machine gun turrets. So technically she was dead. Robotnik Eggman tests the Super Genesis wave, and it turns the world into kind of this weird Mobius more into the game, where Sonic frees Sally, Rotor, and Antoine from one of the little typical little prisons with the animals, and Sally gets a flicky. She kind of does this little Disney princess sing with song to the flicky for help, and it was really weird because it's SatAM Sally, but doing this really typical princess thing, and it reminded me of what Sally does here. She kind of whistles up their little dragonfly messenger to say, hey, We gotta go find Sonic.
Hmm. Okay. I didn't know there was that much lore behind this. Okay. I thought it was just a throwaway bird. Okay. Yeah, so in Robotropolis, Snively tricks, I'm going to call him Amnesiac Sonic, into believing he is Snively the Great, an ally.
Scrambled Sonic.
Or Scramble. Oh, yeah, I like that one better. Scrambled Sonic. Let's go with that. An ally, and that Sally is their mutual enemy. Snively claims that, he shows him like a little hologram on, like, what was it? Like a phone or something? Snively then claims Sonic has infiltrated her group on his behalf. Meanwhile, the carrier pigeon, or dragonfly, or whatever this thing is, delivers Sally's message to Chuck, who joins Sally, Bunny, and Dulcie for a search for Sonic. Nearby, Bunny, Sally, and Chuck make... I should mention that they make bird calls to find each other, which was interesting. So then they check Robotnik's prisoner holding room, where the roboticization candidates are kept, but despite Dulcie destroying a surveillance orb trailing them, Sally and Chuck sneak into the facility disguised in tech bot armor. However, they find a cell empty, raising fears that Sonic may already be roboticized. Chuck reassures them that Robotnik would have announced it if that happened. The group then spots Snively walking with Sonic, who laughs at Snively's bad jokes. Snively then orders Sonic to locate Knothole in the Great Forest and provides him with a radio to transmit its coordinates. Sonic, discovering his super speed, races off in the wrong direction before Snively corrects him. But overhearing this, Chuck tells Sally to return to Knothole while he investigates further in Robotropolis. Sally, Bunny, and Dulcie take flight, but crash when Dulcie hits a tree. What are we
Take
at?
a shot.
What are we at? 5? 6?
5 for the... This is like 6, actually.
Okay. Meanwhile, Sonic speeds through the Great Forest, guided by Snively, who assures him that a freedom fighter will find him soon. Sally rushes back to the meeting square, calmly relaying what she overheard. I want to say something. I kind of hate the way she delivers this line. Like, there's no stakes involved in the moment. Like, oh no, Sonic's coming. We got to prepare, and he's got to take over this area. You know what I'm talking about? You agree?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe this is because it's the same director, or maybe it is all Kath Soucie's acting range. So I don't know. Also, Antoine makes some comment here about showing contempt for Sonic, but then Dulcie tells him to can it. Is this
I've noticed that in a previous episode where, like, Dulcie and Tails tell Antoine to just shut up 3 times.
Oh, this episode they tell him 3 times. At least I wrote it down 3 times, but I don't know. I guess obviously I was thinking, is this like the writers or like the creators saying, yeah, maybe he was kind of annoying. Let's give our watchers somebody they can relate with. Like we're here as like watchers at home saying, oh, Antoine, shut up, right? Right? That sort of thing. I imagine that's why they wrote this line, because maybe they heard the feedback loud and clear. Anyway, so realizing they need to act quickly, Bunny then asks where Tails is, and Dulcie replies that Tails is currently in the Watchtower. Terrified that Tails can reveal Nahoo's location to Sonic, Sally says that they have to warn Tails as soon as possible. Now, in Season 1, Sally's line was always, I have a plan. Now it's, what is it, Malzilla? Do you know? Did you pick up on it?
We have to warn. Tails.
Oh, not that one. No. She constantly always says, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. She says a lot. You'll pick this up.
Konnichiwa?
No, not that. Not that.
I'm making a joke.
Yeah, but she says a lot now. So Tails notices Sonic running through the forest and flies over to him. When Tails calls out to Sonic, the hedgehog stops and so abruptly that he gets buried into the ground. Jumping out of the hole that he made, Sonic meets up with Tails, and from this conversation, Tails notices how strange Sonic is behaving. And
This Sonic doesn't get tired. Doesn't take
yeah, he doesn't
naps.
take naps. He's like, then Sonic he tells Tails, hey, let's take a race back to Knothole, and then convinces Tails to leave his post, which pleases Snively over the radio. Giving Tails a head start, Sonic begins, racing towards Knothole, and as you said, well, there's a scene before that. Soon after, Dulcie arrives and tells Sally that Tails has disappeared. Knowing that Tails would never leave his post, Sally is sure that Tails is with Sonic. Eventually, Sonic reaches Knothole, and then Snively marks his location. Snively then orders the assault force to get ready and proclaims that Snively the Great will soon destroy Knothole. Sonic and Tails then arrive in Knothole, which he stumbles and falls again. But trying to cover for this clumsiness, he tells Tails that he's feeling tired and he needs a nap. Something he never does. And then he mistakes both Dulcie, who apparently has a hut, and Sally's hut as his own.
That was my joke, was like, acting on instinct, the first hut he goes to is Sally. And I'm like, what is that implying there, Sonic? That do you not sleep in your own hut? Are you crashing in Sally's the entire time?
Yeah, it's an innate response. Yeah.
It's an innate response.
Yeah, it's it's the lizard brain. In response,
Lizard hedgehog brain.
Yeah, there you go. In response, Sonic tells Tails that he was just testing him. Can't blow his cover. Later, Tails calmly meets up with a very calm Sally again, and a calm Dulcie. I don't think they're directed particularly well here. They should be a bit more alarmed, in my opinion. Like, they should be a bit more shocked, because he's an intruder. You scrambled Sonic, right? And he tells them that Sonic is taking a nap and that he has noticed that Sonic is not entirely himself. I mean, here's an opportunity for a joke. Taking a nap? Okay, that's definitely not him. So upon hearing this, Dulcie explains everything to him. Sally then sneaks up to Sonic's hut to eavesdrop on his conversation with Snively over the radio through the window, but initially Snively is angry that Sonic hasn't rounded up all the freedom fighters in one place, but he quickly recollects himself and then asks Sonic to do so. He also added that he would soon arrive in Knothole. Sally then leads the other freedom fighters to an underground passage under a tree stump. Remember this one from early Archie?
Yep.
I remember saying, like, oh, there it is! I had one of those, Leonardo DiCaprio, like, sitting on the sofa pointing at the screen moments.
Yeah, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yes. Then Antoine complains again, second time. Does this count as a shot? Antoine complaining and then being told to shut up? I don't know. Don't drink. Drinking is this is self-harm. Self-harm if you drink too much. So we'll just leave it to Dulcie. But yeah, the others silence him with our second "Can it, Antoine" line. Everybody joining in unison.
Like, shut up, Antoine.
Eventually, Sally enters the hiding place as the last person and closes the tree stump on top of the passage. Sally then spies on Sonic speeding by through... Wait. This isn't the second one. This is the third one. Was this the third candidate, Antoine? I don't know. Or no, I think there's another one. I'm sorry. I'm losing count of numbers. Anyway, then he spies on Sonic speeding through the hole in the tree stump. And then outside, Sonic is calling out the other freedom fighters, but there is no avail. And you can clearly tell that he scrambled Sonic because he doesn't call her Sal. He says Sally. He uses both syllables. So, because he's a one-syllable person. Meanwhile, Snively prepares to land a Robotnik's hovercraft, not knowing that Chuck is hiding on board on it, and a tech bot then provides Snively with an enhanced memory scrambler. Upon finally landing, Snively puts on a helmet, and together with a group of other SWAT bots, he flies towards the meeting place with Sonic on board hover carriers. Now, let me ask you, do you like this hat that Snively has?
It's very Star Wars.
It is.
It's very... Yeah, I mean, obviously, World War II kind of Nazi Star Wars helmet that the Imperial officers wore. So, it's kind of funny, it's like he's trying to, take command. And it's really funny because he's trying and failing.
Yeah. In the meantime, Chuck sneaks out of the hovercraft and runs off. Upon meeting with Sonic, however, Snively learns that from Scrambled Sonic, that the Freedom Fighters have all disappeared. Knowing that they must be hiding somewhere, Snively tells the SWAT bots to turn on their heat sensors to look around to find them. Meanwhile, Chuck tells the Freedom Fighters about Snively's plan to use the memory scrambler and all of them to remove their memories temporarily. While Chuck does not know how long the memory scrambler's effects last, he knows that they can shake Sonic out of his scrambled state with a power ring. Sally informs them that the next power ring is due in 2 minutes, that prompts Tails to get action to get it. And in a rush, Tails does in fact get it and is rewarded with Sally's kiss, and then she asks him to do one more thing. As the SWAT bot search the area, Dulcie peers through a hole in the tree stump and then hushes Antoine. Okay, this is number 3. Excuse me. 3. This is 3. While they're chatting, Antoine, without much protest, seems fine with it this time. Again, I don't know why we need 3 scenes of this, but maybe it's like the creator saying, "We hear you. We hear you. You don't like Antoine." So, the SWAT bots eventually locate the Freedom Fighters beneath the stump. Snively demands that they come out within 5 seconds. At the last moment, Antoine emerges to greet Snively, who dismissively pushes him aside. Dulcie threatens Snively, but this doesn't work, and Snively both her and Bunny with the memory scrambler. Actually, no, I'm sorry, it's just Dulcie. It's not Bunny at first. I have this wrong in my notes. But they do get scrambled later in the episode. Snively then orders Sonic to find Sally, claiming that she's the one he cares most about locating, and dispatches a squadron of stealth bots. Meanwhile, Sonic stumbles during his run and is discovered by Tails, who brings him to Sally and Chuck. They assure Sonic that they're his friends, but he rejects them, insisting that his only friend is Snively the Great. To restore his memory, Snally again tosses him a power ring, and its energy returns to Sonic's memories, and he races around joyfully before thanking his friends. Chuck devises a plan. He and Sally will reprogram the stealth bots to stop the attack on Knothole, while Sonic deals with Snively. With the plan set, our heroes split up to take action. And they do a 4-way high five. You ever done one of these before, Malzilla? A 4-way high five?
I've done a 3-way. I haven't gone 4-way yet, though.
Oh, okay. All right. Fair. So then, but now this is when they're all, they've fallen victim to the memory scrambler. It's this next scene where we see Bunny, Rotor, and Dulcie now, memory scrambled, and leaving only Antoine, who tries to appease Snively by kissing his boots. Snively is unimpressed by this, and then he hits Antoine with the device. Suddenly, Sonic arrives, snatching the memory scrambler and using it on Snively, who becomes, scrambled. Sonic introduces himself to Snively as Sonic the Magnificent. Meanwhile, Sally and Chuck infiltrate Robotnik's hovercraft and hack into the stealth bot system. When prompted for a password, they deduce that it must be Robotnik's favorite insult for Sonic, rodent. Entering the password, they successfully cancel the stealth bot's mission, celebrating their victory. Later, Sonic, Sally, and Chuck return Snively to Robotnik's headquarters, exploiting Snively's, scrambledness, his amnesia, and Sonic shows him a hologram of Robotnik, claiming that he's Snively's enemy. Meanwhile, Sally and Chuck erase Knothole's location from the database and replace it with the Great Swamp. Snively, now fully convinced, praises Sonic before Robotnik's sudden return forces the heroes to flee. Then finally, Snively, unaware of the ruse, confronts and attacks Robotnik, who easily overpowers him during the scuffle. Snively regains his memory and reveals Knothole's supposed location. Robotnik accompanies Snively the Great. I called him Snively the Great. Snively to the Great Swamp, but then becomes irritated by the mosquitoes and Snively's inability to locate Knothole. Growing impatient, Robotnik begins to question Snively's competence. End of episode. So, Malzilla, thoughts?
It was definitely the weakest of this first 3 batch. again, as soon as I remember, like, oh great, it's a Snively episode, which is kind of novel in its own right, but
Yeah,
it's like,
Snively gets an
yeah,
episode, but Bunny doesn't. Yeah,
yeah, no, I
yeah.
mean,
What is this?
I was
Tails
gonna
doesn't even get
say,
one. Yeah.
I mean, Bunny does get some, Tails does get some later on in this season, but yeah, I will say this, giving, you know, giving Snively his own stuff, while kind of lame, it's not a bad concept.
Uh huh.
I'll say this, when you get to our age, we've all seen the amnesia brainwash trope done just about any way you can do it, and it's a predictable trope. It's predictable. You know how it's gonna end. You know how the problem's gonna be solved. And while yeah, you can say this to a lot of different storytelling tropes, um, this is one that's never been kind of like my favorite. Though there are certainly better ways to do it. But again, there's some fun stuff to see. Again, seeing them use Tails a lot more than just being the plucky kid sidekick. He's very much um, doing stuff. He's flying around. He's, standing guards. He feels like he's part of the group. Um, Antoine, yeah, what are we doing? What are we gonna do about old Antoine? He's really just digging himself in a hole. And maybe Ben Hurst had a secret vendetta against Antoine, and none of us never knew.
Hmm. Okay.
But again, this is Sally again is playing very much in a big story part. Plus, Uncle Chuck. It's again we're seeing Uncle Chuck a lot, which is cool. So yeah,
Hmm.
no Bunny though.
So what's
Oh
your
no,
letter
wait a minute.
grade?
Bunny was. I give this a C plus.
All right.
I
I
mean,
think
it
I'm with.
wasn't terrible.
It's serviceable. Yeah, sure. I think I give you the one time we agree. 100% C plus.
Because it's like this feels like it's a lot on par with a lot of season one, where it's fine. It's not great, but it's not like groan worthy.
Okay.
And it's one thing that I think I made the comparison a zillion times, but season one of SatAM feels very much like modern art IDW Sonic, where it's very there's not a whole lot of highs, there's not a whole lot of lows, very much consistently down the middle.
Yeah.
While season two's kind of much like Archie, where the highs are highs, but the lows are gonna get a little low. And this episode is kind of it's a bit of a swing down. It's not bottom of the valley, because I think we're gonna get a couple. We'll get a couple of those episodes later on, but thank God those are only like the mini episodes. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts. What's your grade? You
Same
C
thing.
plus?
C
Yeah.
plus. I mean, this is one you can skip. I mean, it's what is it? If you're gonna watch the reverse Griff episode, I mean, the one if you want to watch an episode that's not the Griff episode, you watch Game Guy. If you want to watch one episode that you skip season two, and oh yeah, by the way, I should mention the time of this recording is in Japan is January 18th, 2025. Yeah, the filmmaker David Lynch has passed away. And the reason why I mention him is this season reminds me a lot of Twin Peaks season two. It has some high highs and so oh boy, does it have some low lows. We're gonna get there, and I'm not looking forward to some of these. So
Well, speaking of things to look forward to, I don't know if we're
to be
going
the
to try to get
inverse,
it
yes.
next. Either get it next week or the week after. I'm going to be out of town on work this. I mean, I'll be able to actually like watch the stuff because I have I do have um I have my iPad and my Paramount Plus. I'll be able to kind of watch some stuff, but yeah, it's the next couple episodes I think are kind of probably arguably because if you go down the episode listings, we're gonna get some really interesting episodes in the next in the next podcast where we'll be hitting Sonic SatAM's first ever two-parter episode where we'll have Blast to the Past.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll figure if we're either going to break it down episode by episode or just one whole, or maybe we'll do both. Who knows? And then we'll get our first double episode. So for those who didn't know, obviously SatAM 2 took it interesting. They did two double episodes. So basically, instead of one traditional 25-minute episode, they did like two 13-minute episodes. So spoiler alert, most of them aren't very good, but we'll definitely have some fun looking into these kind of little mini-sodes next time.
For sure. All right, so I want to close things up there. Yeah, we will return for the next 3 set of episodes. Stay tuned for those. Yeah, there's nothing much else planned. I mean, I have a man on the street interview that I'm trying to plan something for Rally for Sally, but I got to think about how it is to sell it to you guys, or how it is to get you hyped for it. But yeah, I guess, I don't know. Go follow Rally for Sally. I'm planning a lot of things for that. So that's.
But also, follow us.
Yeah,
Join our
call
Discord.
to action. You have been called to action. You've been called to do something. If you made it this far, you might as well subscribe at this point. Like, what are you doing? You listen to us. You got to push the buttons. I mean, that's the best part of watching YouTube.
My finger is on the button. Push the button.
All right. I would make that the end quote, but I don't want to get, caught by YouTube's systems, because that's the Chemical Brothers. That's a pretty well-known song. What do we end on? Serious?
I was going to say one thing that, we didn't really go over, but, we used to talk about Sonic's, do it to it, let's juice and jam. Well, in both these episodes, he's changed it up. So it's either slide and ride, or let's leave it up on this of let's glow and go.
Yeah, glow and go. All right, fellas, let's glow and go.
Thanks, guys. Glow and go.